here. A little cool this morning, although some gorgeous weather. We're certainly thankful for that. But we're going to go ahead and get going. We have a member who needs to get out of here around 10:30. But we're going to go ahead and start this meeting with a prayer. I'm going to ask if Supervisor Trainer, he would open us this morning with a prayer.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we come first of all to say thank you. We thank you, O Father, for this day, and we thank you, Father, for everything that has gone on thus far. And we pray, Father, your blessings and your guidance on us as we discuss and make decisions on the business of your people. Oh, Father, we realize that as we're going through this season, Father, with this particular year, there have been a lot of things that have come that we have not been expecting, but we thank you, Father, that your grace and mercy has allowed us to get to this point. And we're praying, oh Father, that we continue to do the things that are pleasing in your sight. And Father, just keep us in your care. And Father, after the elections and everything else that's gone by, Father, help us to live our lives and do those things that are pleasing in your sight, and try to move our country, our county, wherever we are, try to do the best we can with what we have. We ask that you forgive us for all of our sins. In Jesus' name I pray. Let's all say together. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Trainer. It's in your packet. Moving right along, the approval of the October 2020 board orders. I need a motion in a second. So moved. Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion on the board orders? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving right along to our citizens' comment period, where any citizen can come before the board for up to 3 minutes and address the board. If anyone would like to, the floor is yours. Seeing that there are none, we're going to move right along to project updates. Mr. Clyde Pritchett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm telling this on the record. I've got a list of our projects I can go through one at a time, or we can do ask and answer, whichever way y'all like.
Well, just go through them, and then I guess if we got a question, we'll
Open for comments at any time. I know y'all met with Phillips at the last board meeting. Spoke to Blake Hill with Phillips this morning. We should receive submittals on the precast units today, which we'll approve. It'll take them about a week to get some of those units cast and sent to the job site. So we should be putting drainage structures in on Longview Road maybe by the end of the week, first of next week. That's what Phillips has said. They need the job, they're ready to work, so, maybe this thing will get some momentum on it now. Okay, on Blackjack, it's been pretty much status quo. We're putting down curb, got most of the storm drain in on the north side. Do not think that we will get traffic converted to the north side this year. It's going to be in spring before we actually get that done. On your ERBRF projects, the bridges on Sun Creek and the bridge on Longview, Egerton, all the decks are poured. They actually started to do the backfill on the bridge ends last week. Rain caught them, that big rain event, so they had to back off. All they lack on those jobs is backfilling the bridges. They'll have a subcontractor come in and do the handrail, and we'll be done.
So, a question, time frame wise on the Longview Egerton before it could be, I'd say, officially open.
Yeah, we really don't need to put traffic on, John, until we got the rails up. So I'm gonna say weather holds like it is now, we could be looking at 2 weeks. Okay? On the Poorhouse Road Reclamation Project, that program was approved by state aid. It has a project number. We started our plans. We're doing quantities on that now. It's a little bit dynamic, and that stuff you looked at a month ago that you thought you could just maybe repair and overlay, now you think you need to completely rebuild. I mean, it's sort of at that stage where it's real flexible as to what to do and what not to do.
Are you using some of their stuff that they're supplying, the Richard? That other people that were paying, like the studies and stuff that we're getting, we're paying for that, the county is. Are you using their information?
I have yet to see any of that information. I don't know anything about the study, or I haven't seen it.
Reach out to them, and that way we're not double paying for all that.
by way of study though, I will say, Supervisor, no, we're pretty well set on what we're trying to do. We'll certainly go through it to see what their recommendations are. But, you know, right now, we're moving forward with plans on the estimate that we gave you earlier. Poorhouse Road signal. We actually have a crew on site now. They're ready to drill for the light poles. Our survey crews are coordinating with them on the angle of the poles and where to set the bases. They may actually get those drilled today. So our contractor's on site and that job is underway. Okay?
They have time frame for completion.
We've got Supervisor Williams, once they get the lights up, they have what they call a burn-in time where they start warning the public and letting them know, you know, that the signal's in place, it's gonna be activated. I'm gonna say within the next 90 days that thing may be actually functioning enough. Moving along. Oops, thank you. David brought this in today. I know in the latter part of your agenda, you have an item on your payment approvals for N.L. Carson on Sunset Road Bridge. I've just received that this morning. I'll pass it down. If Miss Emily's okay with it, y'all can execute that. That just came in. Moving briefly to the county lake. If you'll remember, the board authorized the GIS department at Mississippi State to do some mapping for us on the normal pool and the floodplain. They produced that for us. I ran a copy for Miss Emily for file, a color copy of that map. We received the data last week. It's lots and lots of data. They did an extraordinary job on what they did. So we now have contours on the lake bottom. We have contours at flood pool. John Weaver and Mr. McCrane with the GIS department have got that worked into our model now, so we can start our computations. So did a real good job, and I believe in the end, Miss Emily, they invoiced us for what, about a third of the original estimate. So very well pleased with them and been very cooperative in helping us bring that into our system. Okay. Other than that, I've met with several of you about your state aid programming. I don't have a lot of answers, and we would really like to get our state aid monies obligated funded program. Our objective again would be to get those plans developed here in the fall and get them in front of state aid, get them approved so we could bid in the spring. So if you need any additional information from me by way of cost estimates or things of that nature, I'd really like to, you know, if possible, get these state aid projects hemmed up. I think Miss Emily gave you in the last obligation was about $425,000 for districts. So now, I did talk to Mark Whitney this morning, and I brought my phone in. I usually don't. He was going to email it to me. He doesn't think the last estimate actually reflected the additional $20 million or so that got put in. So you may receive an updated estimate on state aid funds within today or tomorrow on that. Okay. He and I talked this morning. He wasn't sure that he sent me the one that reflected that additional money that the legislature put forth. So if I get that, I'll forward it to you and distribute it. Either way, I'd like to meet with you, like your input on your state aid project. We'll take just a second. A couple of you know, but Knoxville County advertised for a county engineer. They've elected to make a change down there. We responded to that application. We sent them a copy of our qualifications. We would like to staff up if they elect to hire us and add them to our list of clients. And I just want y'all to be aware of that in case you want to get a call from one of your supervisors, asking about how we perform here, anything of that nature. I don't know when they'll act. I understand they're gonna review applications at their next board meeting, maybe invite for interviews and have a decision by January 1, which is what y'all usually have. But just be aware we have applied.
A couple of things Clyde, and one's on Blackjack, one's on Longview. But if you can get with Blake Hill, with Phillips, about the upkeep of Longview Road, I think right now we've got a few ruts
Okay.
towards the middle of it that need to be addressed.
Tractability getting through.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're only gonna, with the wet season coming like last year, they're only gonna get worse. So it needs to be, between ourselves and their, you know, their crews as well, we need to work together to make sure that ball doesn't get.
Again, I spoke to him this morning. Blake actually had COVID. Tomorrow's his official day back to work. But it's his job site end to end right now, and I'll speak to him about that before the day's out again.
And then, the speed limit on Blackjack Road, in other words, to make sure we've got that posted, and that would be yours and Joe's district. But do we have that posted to say a 20-25 mile an hour speed limit?
We do, and I'll double check. You're talking about through the construction zone?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this, Rob was mentioning that to me.
I just wanna make certain that the speed is within the limits of safety. The sheriff's department did go out there and do a run through, but from your perspective, I just wanna, there's been at least 2 or 3 wrecks up through there, and thank God they haven't been anybody hurt or
Right.
bad, but I'm sure there's been some property damage. I just wanna make certain that we're covering ourselves on that end.
I'll make sure that Burns got all the traffic control up to speed. We'll check on the speed limit posting. We've had a few calls too, as you can imagine, and I'll tell you, one lady called and said my daughter ran into the median barrier. I told her, thank you. That's what it's for.
I think we may have talked about the same people.
That's what that's for, to keep somebody from running off into the construction zone and getting in worse shape. So it's unfortunate, but it did what it was supposed to do.
Who's supposed to be fixing the potholes now? Burns or the county?
It's a combination, but the ones that we can attribute to Burns, we'll have them fixed.
Okay, well, I'm not out there, so I don't know which ones to contribute to Burns, so when somebody's calling with, vehicle damage, cause they hit potholes.
Okay. I'll get John to look at that too.
Burns has not been some of the issues in terms of them creating some of the potholes that I'm getting some complaints
Right.
about, just so you're aware. I don't want it to suggest that we're thinking that they're doing something, but if we need to do something, we need to get on top of it. Cause either way, we're still responsible for all of them.
And some of the calls y'all are getting, I will say, unfortunately, been from some of the utility providers that have been kind of outside our control, that have come in and gotten in somebody's yard and moved here or there. Those are not under contract by Burns. They're just out there doing those relocations. And we've tried to respond to those, go out there and find them and say, would you please not park in Mrs. X's yard here or whatever and move. So we're trying to manage it as best we can.
That's not what I'm getting, I'm still getting calls because people get potholes and run their tires.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're supposed to be doing those or if Burns supposed to be doing it.
John's out there daily. I'll get him to make a call on that today and see what we can do.
Okay.
Okay? Other than that, you do have, on that last status of funds, you've got some LSBP money still hanging out there. And tune of like $388,000. Supervisor Howard, you asked us to look at the Howell Road Bridge, which is LSBP eligible. That is a 60-foot Bailey Bridge, metal deck out there. Based on the numbers that we saw in our ERBRF projects, we think that job would come in around $306,000 or so. But that's strictly working on a unit price per foot on what we saw for the others. When we did the engineering, we reserved the right to revise the estimate for what we see. But we think it's just north of a $300,000 job. It's probably a 19-foot span, a 40-foot span, and a 19-foot span to do the replacement precast.
Alright, so how much eligible LSVP do we?
388.
388.
The last estimate was last status of funds showed 388,514, and I feel like that's probably going up a little.
I mean, what's the weight limit on it right now? And if it reflects it, then we
And it's posted deficient, I mean, it's on our deficient bridge list, all the Bailey bridges are deficient. Metal deck.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we've been having, the board's sort of been having some discussion about LSBP funding and things of that nature. And we're just trying to work through this thing. Supervisor Miller has mentioned about a bridge, is it in the city limits, that we've been discussing, I think you've been involved with, on that. And so, I was wanting us to identify some bridges, well, I know I had that one in my district that's in bad shape. And I wanted to look at our LSBP funding along with the other projects and just see if we can work through something and sort of get the ins and outs of what's going on with our LSBP funding.
Supervisor Miller just forwarded me this, and I'll back up and try to give you a little bit of history. The board, back in September of 19, actually authorized us to create an LSBP project on what we call the Barnett Drive Bridge. It's a little crossing in Pleasant Hill subdivision down here, Barnett Drive. We started to work on that. LSBP requires us to design these structures for a 25-year storm event. That's their standard. Somewhere in the conversation with the city came back and said, we want this structure designed for a 100-year storm event. That's where everything stalled. Because LSBP will pay for the 25-year event. They will pay for us to design the 25-year event. Any extra costs would have to go to 100 would have to be borne by the city.
And they were willing to do that. The region, they were willing to do that. The reason that started initially is because you thought that that money could be moved on to state road projects and it was gonna be put on a project from Supervisor Howard. If you remember, the county was gonna take it on, putting it in, y'all were gonna put 2 culverts in there. I'm gonna just joust your memory a little bit. And then that didn't work. Because it wasn't legal.
Our original design was 2 arch pipes to go in to replace the bridge, which would meet the LSBP standards. We being Pritchard Engineering and myself, I know Rob, you're gonna be the one to end up refereeing this, I guess. But we have a fundamental problem with redesigning the structure as a 100-year storm event. I.e., the people downstream, the neighbors downstream of this pipe have never experienced a structure up there that would pass 100 years water. So somebody downstream could bust, okay? And this is an argument that I've had with the city, it's an ongoing deal, but, you know, should we do this, we, being our company, will want to hold harmless for the design of the larger structure.
Is it possible we could get a hold harmless for down?
For any damage caused by enlarging that structure over and above LSBP standards.
It wasn't enlarging, it was changing they wanted a box culvert instead of round culverts. They wanted something similar aesthetically. They've reworked, that's in Pleasant Acres, and they've reworked all of the sewage in that area. And right now it is some type of box culvert with a bridge over it, you know, with railing on the side, and they wanted something that aesthetically was the same. Instead of 2 black culverts that the county was gonna go in and place, you know, they wanted something that looked a little nicer, and they were willing to pay for the difference if we could come together on something.
If you and I will get together, I think I can satisfy your concerns on your side of it, and then satisfy the city's concerns on their side of it, but from a legal standpoint, get you taken care of. I just wanna make certain that you and I are on the same page on
The
that
last
side.
conversation we had is they wanted design, Supervisor Miller was correct, to a box, but a box that would accommodate a 100-year storm event, and that's problematic, okay?
And I want to bring this up because there's a project there's a project on Harold Road, we got LSBP funding, so we need to make some determinations on what and where we're gonna spend LSBP funding. So that's my reason for bringing it up.
I have a question. The 380
388,514.
Is that, first of all, that 388 couldn't possibly do two bridges, number one, right?
Well,
I guess it
the
would.
388 does not include the Barnett Bridge, because we never programmed it. We did the initial estimate, then we bogged down in the conversation, so it's not programmed. Now, I will say, and you seen by the letter, Miss Emily's had the letters too, the state aid is all about repairing bridges right now. You've also seen letters that said, if you don't spend your LSBP money, you know, we're gonna take it and go spend it somewhere else with somebody that will. You're in a better position. I think if you were to present both programs, with your bridge and the Barnett Bridge, that state aid would think very hard about finding the additional LSBP funds to program both projects.
You said it could be even more than 388,514.
From what I understood from those board orders, that we were gonna take $138,000 of LSBP money and whatever else that it was gonna take, the city was gonna put in.
Yes, and we have not, because we've roadblocked on the size of the culvert, et cetera, we've not ever established what those costs.
I realize that, but we know it's gotta be built, LSBP, is LSBP.
As a minimum.
And the city, and the county has obligated $138,000 of LSBP money for it, and the city was gonna put in the rest. No matter how it's built, or what y'all decide to do on it, we have obligated $138,000 of LSBP money for it,
Okay.
for the city to do the rest.
What we,
So,
go ahead, I'm
to
sorry.
obligate those monies, we have to develop a program that we send state aid that says 134,000 LSPP from Octavio County. Down in that program, you'll see other funds. We have to establish what that number is and where it's coming from. We've not got to the program stage because we've not answered the question.
But the board has done a board order.
Correct. But we do not have a program. The board is obligated to money, but LSBP is not obligated to money.
Todd, how do I, cause I wanna get both of these projects, I'd like to get them, that itch scratched as fast as we can, cause we've got that money available for that project out there. And then do we have the other side of the coin? In other words, the Barnett Bridge, we have it set aside, but we haven't got it programmed.
We haven't got it programmed because we didn't answer the 100 verse 25 question on side of the box and what that additional cost might be. So in the program document, we would list 134 for LSBP if that's how that stays. And then we would list X amount projected from City of Starkville.
Do you know what the status of the, I'm gonna be careful what I say. And
Sure.
We are on TV here, or computer. There's an issue with the city's, professionals that they're using in that regard. Are you aware of that?
No.
All right, you and I need to have a conversation after this, come up with a, make sure
I do know there's some issue with their ERBRF bridges. You'll remember in our initial programming or request for ERBRF, we had Old West Point Road in there. The city also applied for that and got those funds, but they're yet to get either of those projects under construction. So, I don't know if that's tied with it.
It may be.
Yeah.
I think there may be another issue that, tell you what, today, you and I need to talk, if.
We'll try to get this done, present something to the city before tomorrow, something, a basic something for their big board meeting.
Okay, here's my issue. Both bridges are just as important as the other one is. And it's never been in concrete because a board order was passed and we can't revamp a board order. I think, and here's the other deal. Clyde is a LSBP engineer. So whatever is designed, Clyde's gonna have to design it. We're not gonna be able to just give the city and say, oh, here it is, you go design it. They're not LSBP engineers. Clyde is the LSBP engineer that designs it. So, before I obligate to say, let's just spend the money, put the money on that, I want us to have a conversation about Harrow Road Bridge too. I think that bridge is deficient. Now, I've got school buses crossing that bridge. and
That was the point with this one too,
It's
this
in
is
bad
level
shape,
5,
so
wasn't it?
I think we need to talk about both of them.
I think we could.
I would just say, and again, I hate to, but if we're looking somewhere at 306 on yours, we've got 134, you're within 60K of the LSBP money, so I honestly believe you can program both projects with the understanding that the city pays for the difference. I think you could program both projects.
That's where I wanted you to get me if that was a possibility.
I think you could program both projects now. We could program Harold Road Bridge immediately, and when we answer the question about the additional cost on Barnett, we could program it.
So you think out of the 388,000, we're gonna have enough there to do the 134,000 that we've obligated to Barnett plus Arrow?
I think it's gonna be about 60K short, and I think that money's probably gonna show up on the next status of fund. Or I believe Harry Lee James will reach over somewhere and get the additional LSPP funds.
Just you and I get together this afternoon, I think I wanna make certain that I get both of my supervisors taken care of with what they need. If we can get close on that.
Again, I think you can do both projects, is what I'm saying.
So let me see if I'm hearing this correct. I'm just asking.
Sure.
To be able to program the Barnett Bridge, the city, in other words, we have to show our 134, 138, whatever that number is, that we would obligate. They would have to, in turn, say that what number they're gonna obligate for the project, because it would be from the 25-year to the 100-year, being it go from the two culverts to a box culvert in essence.
Correct, which is gonna require some initial preliminary design on our part for whatever size that structure ends up being.
Isn't the box culvert there now? Isn't that what's under the bridge?
It's,
And the city has to realize that this is LSBP bridge and it has to be approved by the state.
correct. So, but back to you, John, yeah, we will have to do enough work, however this conversation irons out, right, we'll have to do enough work to decide what the estimated cost of that box will be, and that will be the number that would be plugged in from other sources, being the city of Starkville, in the program document. So, they're gonna wanna see what the estimated cost of construction is, where the money's coming from, and, the engineering fees, the whole nine yards.
Because, it's easy for the city to say, well, yeah, we gonna cover the rest of it, but then when they're hit with a price, they might decide, well, wait a minute, we didn't realize it was gonna cost this much. So, I'm just saying, if there's a way to get both projects done, let's go down that avenue, let's take a look at it and see what we can get done.
If it's a true obligation from them, we just need to decide what that number is. State aid is gonna wanna know what that number is. They're not gonna just take city's gonna pay for it. They're gonna know the city's gonna pay for it in the amount of X. And again, I think you could program both projects. I think you could program this one now. I think you can program this one when the conversation is settled.
Okay.
Yeah?
And I think that your estimates and how you've approached this, you've kind of been there the whole time. We just haven't been able to figure out how to get to that next level in
Correct.
terms of getting.
Correct. I mean, when we call time out, back when it started, right?
Thank you.
Professor Howard, did you mention about your bridge that I keep asking about, that all my friends go from here to West Cedar Road, was that?
It's sort of the same deal with the Longview project y'all got going. You waiting on contractors to finish up and you getting this out.
I was just wondering if
Well,
he's-
Clyde
he
just
got
talked
that
about
one.
that. He talked about that early on. And yeah, you tell them we'll have it open as quick as we can. Our first obligation is to serve the people of District 3 in Octavia County. And so that road actually services above 95% of people from another county. But you tell them that we feel their concerns and we'll have it open just as soon as we can. Sort of like when you got your update on your Longview project that people been asking me and you and everybody else about. We saw the same thing.
Miss Emily, not to break the conversation, I'm just trying to see, cause I wanna see both bridges taken care of, okay? At what rate do we get this LSBP money? In other words, how quick does it generate? In other words, the 60,000 we're lacking, would it take 2 months, 3 months, a year?
I think right now, I think adding like $411 or something a month to that LSBP.
$411.
Advance credits.
$411
Yeah,
a month?
yeah, state
No.
aid is like
I got
4,000 and
I
something.
got it right here, Miss Emily, the last house fund, your state aid on advanced credits is increasing by $4,671. And your LSVP is increasing monthly $813.
$813. And then there was, inflow of additional money that we were talking about, was that for LSVP or was that for state aid?
He said state aid.
I may have said state aid, but I believe the intent on the 20 million, Rob may know more about this than me, the 20 million or so was to be obligated to LSVP to bridge.
Okay, so we probably will, realize,
We'd probably get 200 to 300,000 of that.
okay,
Mark has sent me an update, I can't read it, I can't
For some reason, I was thinking it was.
see it good enough to see what that bottom number is. See that,
But then
I can't blow it up, well, I can't do
I
nothing
don't
with it.
know where it's coming from.
Well, these bridges cost.
I couldn't get it up.
I look at bridges a little different than I do roads. You know, the bridges are
No, I can't.
strictly on the deficiencies.
I'm gonna try to email it to myself.
If the, our state aid engineer, our engineer gives us, that's countywide. I don't care if it's like the old West Point Road Bridge or the Long
It's
Beach
the
Road
same
Bridge.
fund, that's the contract.
They're all bridges.
The 38 year.
And then when they get closed down, they close down.
And
You come up
when they're
with another
deficient,
fix.
then that comes out of that fund as a whole. Clyde, I'm asking you, do you feel like both of these bridges can be done and programmed? You're saying yes.
Yes, I believe so.
We program them, we can't program them both today because we need this conversation to be
You
had.
can program the one today, you can program the second when we've answered the question about what the additional cost may be. But I believe this board will be able to program both. With the caveat that the additional cost is just something that the city does not want to pay. And at that point, it would be back down to prototypical LSBP project would be back down to 134,000 or so estimate and go.
But, and I'm asking Supervisor Miller, I'm asking you this, if, and it very well may be, to be fair to the city, that they may or may not be able to pay this, just from the COVID. Would you be satisfied with the 25-year, storm that we're looking at? In other words, design it to that if the city can't?
If they can't
Pay
do
the
what they
rest.
said, their discussion was about that they wanted to take on the additional costs. I think we need to give them an opportunity to
Yeah.
see if they still want, and that's what the recent emails have been about the same thing. They're assuming that we're we're to the point that we just need an interlocal agreement so they can move forward. It's my understanding.
That was my understanding as well. The question that I had, which I think I could get the issue of who's responsible for the downwater at that point, I think we can handle that. But my question was, in an interlocal agreement, you generally speaking have what's obligated, and I don't want the county just to walk in with what we're obligating and then the city doesn't have their side of what they're obligating. Does that make sense?
I don't know that we have to have an interlocal agreement because this is actually gonna be LSBP money in the city. And it's my understanding, no matter how he builds it, we're obligating $138,000 and the city is paying the rest, whether it's 25-year or 100-year.
So we could do it like that, and not have to get into all this other,
Yeah,
okay.
that's my understanding.
The only way to obligate LSB.
I understand.
To obligate LSBP funds is through a program with state aid through the LSBP engineer.
I realize that, but the city, the county has said we will take $138,000 out of LSBP money to put towards that. And they wanted that as opposed to the $250,000 culverts or whatever.
Correct.
But would it not make sense to think that LSBP is not gonna obligate their funds unless they know this project is gonna be completed?
They're not.
So basically, all I'm saying is both projects need doing.
I
But
think
why
it's the
sit
same
here,
program
but why
yours
sit,
first.
excuse me, Supervisor Miller, but why sit here and hold LSB funding, not knowing what's gonna happen when we've got a project that we can go ahead and program and start the ball rolling, as opposed to sitting here waiting on fund. It's sorta, and I'm gonna go back to this, it's sorta like on Longview, when that state aid fund is what I thought I had was moved and placed on there to keep the project going. Then when the time came, I no longer had that money. Why are we sitting here when we've got projects that can be moving forward? Instead of moving forward, we're sitting here waiting on unknown answers. That's what the LSBP funding is for, projects that need to be doing. I'm not trying to stop her from getting hers done, but I'm not going to sit here with funding in place and not moving and doing a project, waiting on some unknown answers. When at the end of the day, it's possibly might not even materialize.
I agree with you 100%, but these answers should not be unknown. They should not drag out forever. They should be able to get these answers within a day or so.
I don't think any of us have any problem with programming your bridge. I mean, we just heard that in this meeting. I mean, I don't have a problem making the motion to move forward on Supervisor Howard's bridge. I just want us to finish, whatever we need to do on the other. While we're talking about bridges,
let's do it.
I mean, nobody's said that, I don't think. I mean, I haven't heard that around this table.
Well, I think right now, there's some things coming up in this conversation that I don't think we were all clear on. I think we felt like we could just say, okay, we're gonna obligate you that $100 and some thousand LSVP funding and go at it. That's not the way it's gonna work. First of all, regardless, Mr. Pritchett is the LSVP engineer. So whatever is designed, he's gotta design it. The city can't design it. Well, the one thing that we sort of forgetting, that project would have been done if they had let him design it to the 25-year flood for LSVP requirements. It would have been done and gone. Well, they wanted it pretty. They wanted it pretty, and they wanted it to a 100-year flood. So it's not really this board that's holding it up.
Well, nobody's saying
Yeah,
that, but
so-
the city's just asking us to work with them on some changes, and I think we should go down that road and try to do that. I mean, we work together on a lot of projects, and we get more done when we work together. Can I ask you about Morgantown bridges?
That's all right, take a motion.
Move forward.
So, are we going, and I think, did you make that official?
I'll make the motion for Supervisor Howard's bridge, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I think our supervisor trainer seconded that, cause I was just being clear here. I think, guys, at the end of the day, here's the thing. I think we're going, I feel confident that we can get both these bridges done. It's just the conversations need to be had.
Right.
We'll extend that to the city. We worked well with them in the past, we'll work well with them on this, we'll work well with them in the future. Just, it's like every fire chief and every battalion chief I ever had, communication is the best thing, you know what I'm saying, that, communicate. And I think we'll have good conversation and communication with them. And if they want to take this project up and above, when I say the project, the Barnett Road Bridge, up and above what we can put into it, then by all means, if the aesthetics are important to them, then they'll put as much as they can into it. I'm most concerned about if that bridge is open, if a bus can get across it, if a vehicle can get across it. I want it to be as pretty as possible, but I want it to be functional first. And so we've got a motion and a second on the floor for Sun Creek Bridge,
Not something.
Harold Road.
Arrow Road Bridge, I do apologize. Any more discussion?
Yeah,
on that?
probably the only other Baylor Bridge in Octavia County is on Harris Road. And we've talked several times about when can that bridge be programmed. Can you kind of give us some kind of idea about when can we program the Harris Road?
I'll need to check that for you, Supervisor Williams, because it's had some improvements. We do have a few more Bailey bridges in the county. Supervisor Miller has some on Morgantown Road up there that are coming in some 90-degree curves and
We're
whatever.
talking about more mainstream bridges on main roads that are traveling, people's,
Yeah.
school buses are traveling across.
We have a
and
few
things
more
like that.
Bailey beside Harris, but I will get you an update on Harris.
Thank you.
For record purposes, Rob, that's Bridge 111 in the county, the Harold Road Bridge.
111.
111.
You bring that information back to the board.
Sure.
Thank you.
I can't quote it verbatim right now.
Right.
And most of you know, if you have questions concerning your bridge, David Harrelson knows them inside and out. I mean, he's one of our lead bridge inspectors. He's under them, he's doing your inspection reports. So feel free to ask David about the status of any of them at any time. He can pretty much quote them to you.
All right, any more discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we've got that board order in place. So, marching orders on the Barnett Bridge in town here.
He and I need to talk, and probably after that conversation, I need to speak with their engineer record, whoever that is, at the time, and then we can develop what that projected cost might be. Just the same thing that we just did for Marvell this morning, is say, we think this project's gonna cost X.
To be fair to the
Yeah.
whole situation, I'm just trying to find a way to get both of them done today. Is there a way we could do a board order that obligates up to our amount, although we may not have it at the moment, depending on what the city.
I think you've already done that.
We've already got it done.
Well, that's what the order's saying.
Right, well, that's
I
what I
think
mean.
you've got an obligation for $134,000 of LSBP money toward the Barnett Bridge, is what I believe you have in
It's,
place.
that's right there, in the
That's right
paperwork I
there.
gave
To
you.
make this board order activate then, in other words, it would need to be, the city's side would have to be on that.
The county has obligated the 134 to LSBP. It can't be obligated state level to LSBP until the funding is established and the estimates are in place through a program document. So when we have the conversations, we know what the additional funds is. I will come back to this board and say, we would like to build X structure. The cost is projected to be X. You're putting in 134. The city is putting in whatever that number is. The county will sign that program document, we'll send it to state aid and move forward. I mean, it's the same procedure that, it's really no different from some of the state aid projects that y'all have voted to put your own county funds in as an additional source of funding.
I guess the only caveat to that one is a little different from Harold Road is the people downstream, you'd have to get a release from them saying that.
Hold harmless.
I think what we do is get the city to take the responsibility. I don't know that you guys are saying that.
And Rob, again, I'm not trying to create something that's not fair, but that's a conversation that's going kind of statewide.
So instead of
right
people
now.
behind them, because it was blocked, flooding their yards, now they're, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, this was a problem before, is that there's flooding in that neighborhood already. You know, that's the reason they're trying to fix the bridge.
Right.
Oh,
The drainage.
you know, one of my mentors always said, old English law holds that whatever you do, you can't adversely affect the flow of water. That's either upstream or downstream. So yeah, the upstream people may be getting some flooding retention, the ditches are full of this and that, but you can't fully relieve that to the point that you just transfer that downstream. You've got to be, from an engineering standpoint, you gotta be solid in what you do. And the standard for LSPP work is the 25-year storm event. If you you go over that, you're gonna have to justify. Okay?
Let's get those conversations had.
The only one I failed to mention, John, I apologize, is your Hickory Grove project. Because we had to acquire that little shirt tail right away, we're having to do an environmental assessment on that. That's in progress. I hope to be able to advertise it, within the next couple of weeks. Okay? That's all I got.
Anything else for the road manager?
Engineer.
Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Have a good week.
But
Appreciate that,
if you
Supervisor.
haven't heard from me by this afternoon, send me a text.
I'm going to Bungle.
Okay.
Back, just call.
Okay.
When we want to.
Yes, sir.
All right, road manager's report, Mr. Bagley. Why it took so long, we're back on schedule. Got the road manager report, in your packets. Is there anything anyone would like to ask the road manager? Oh.
I make a motion, we accept these recommendations for the public purchase.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard, to accept the road manager's report.
Correction, for equipment purchase, recommendation.
Well, we need equipment. I mean,
That's
I'm
why
hearing
I'm
more
glad
and more
to
that we
get
don't have it.
Yeah.
Just bottom line, we don't have it. So we've got a motion and a second on the floor, any more discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
And that was on the equipment purchase.
That was Orlando, made the motion, and Howard second.
For approval on the road manager's report.
Got a motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard on the road manager's report. Any discussion on that? Any questions for the road manager? If not, all those in favor say aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, I spoke with Miss Emily on Friday, it was relatively late, regarding a rehire. And I didn't, have an opportunity to get it into everybody's packet. And, but I did speak with him. I had a meeting with, the foreman in, C-Shop, and we've been having some challenges out there. And we decided to bring this man back. He was terminated, he wasn't, his, faults were passive, in that he was coming to work late and this type of thing, and so there was anything, really that bad about it. He knows his job well, he had just become complacent with it. And I believe given another opportunity, he would work fine.
A motion for approval on the Lazo Pope rehire to Octaville County.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion on the matter?
Or something else. We may have to go into executive session, but I thought there were other things behind this. No?
Not on him. No. And this is specifically him, or are these all of the payroll changes?
No, that's just one.
It's a different one, yeah.
I just put that one in with my other ones,
Oh. Man.
yeah.
So we'll do all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion, we do all of them.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Sorry, did we do away with one of the motions and go with the motion?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, make sure I got
It
it
was
right.
motions on all of them. 5-0. Anything else?
I received a call from Miss Glenn Roberts this morning, I didn't have an opportunity to talk with Mr. Orlando, but I believe she went through Mr. Orlando regarding a culvert to be placed on her property off of, 16 Section Road. Are you familiar with that, Mr. Trainer?
Right, I think it's Glenda Roberts.
It is, Glenda Road.
So I make a motion that we authorize the road department to install a culvert for Glenda Roberts on 16 Section Road.
On the right of way?
On County
Yeah,
Road.
yeah, on the right of way.
Second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Okay.
There's a community group in the Blackjack community that is planning to do have a litter day pickup. And they requested to use, some, paper grabbers from the road department. These will be returned. They've also requested 2 rolls of, garbage bags, because those won't be returned. And, the use of some, safety vests, and those can be returned.
Could we make that motion across the county, because there are other individuals who want to do the same thing, so it wouldn't just affect Blackjack, but it would affect other areas too as well, so I'd like to see that motion be approved, and then it to be approved as a
Countywide.
Yeah, countywide approval.
But I think it allows us to know what areas this is being done in if we're told, maybe not on each one, but if each time it comes to us and says, this community's gonna be using, then we know who's using the equipment, because, you know, you can say, hey, anybody could take it, and then you get to the end, you're trying to do, well, we thought we had 25 vests or 40 vests, and not just that, knowing what areas are being picked up on the route.
That's amendment to your motion.
So, it's a countywide thing, but, so to that effect.
I just think that we need to know what areas that it's taking place in. You know, I think it's a great thing, but I think that, you know, that's something that we need to be aware of as supervisors too.
Yeah, cause we need to document and take pictures that they actually get it. I hate to tell you that. And we don't have to keep up with our clothes and our vests and everything to get it back.
So have maybe a point person that checks them out.
Yeah, that person could address the issue from that particular area, but still, the motion still stay the same, that they are able to use that equipment.
I don't have any problem with them using it, I just would like to know where they're picking up.
And I think you'd almost have to, in order to schedule use of equipment, cause you may not have.
Supplies,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that equipment supplies.
Yeah, supply. Yeah, so you have to sort of schedule it. But second that motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion on the matter? Not all those in favor say aye. Motion carries. That's a good thing, that hopefully will, you know, I don't litter at all, and I know there are people that they don't mind it, but if we'll go through our communities and keep these roads cleaner, more, you know, a better look, that keeps litter off the roads just as much as anything. So, certainly any help through our community, you know, picking up our trash, because our inmates and trustees, you know, they do everything that they can, but it's just, you know, we are limited. So, certainly, anything that anyone wants to do, it's a great thing, as long as they'll bring back what supplies we've given. That's, any help is welcome in that regard. Anything else for the road manager?
How are we gonna document the disposal of it? I'm assuming they're gonna, when it goes to the landfill, the county's gonna be paying for it?
You know, I don't know, I was thinking that what would happen was, they would, place it on the side of the road and Mr. Kellum would pick it up.
That's what I was asking, you gonna bag it and leave it?
Right.
Okay.
I'm not sure about this, but I just made that assumption.
As they get a full bag, leave it. You
Right.
know. That's the way people, when they adopt a highway,
We
you'll see them bagging it.
definitely need to know the schedule.
I know it's not a big thing, but how many rolls of garbage bags too they get? You know, if they get 6 rolls of garbage bags and
Yeah.
they put 3 bags of trash out, we just need to has the documentation, somehow that we're following up on that.
You can probably develop a little one page, just like you do with other things, just document
Right.
the contact person, expectations. You have a person to hold accountable.
Yeah, because we have a couple of, road department employees are really kind of backing it, are pushing this, and so we'll be able to monitor it pretty close.
I do have one thing for the road manager. I'd like to go into executive session for that, for
Yes, sir.
personnel matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that motion to go into, I guess we'd go in closed session, and possibly executive session. I'll make that motion. Second, any more discussion on that? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Second.
Myself and then Howard. So I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, and audience, we're gonna have to go into closed session. Okay, we came out of executive session, took no action in the executive session, so, moving right along, we did accept the road manager's report. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baggett. Chancery Clerk Business, Ms. Livingston.
Just to acknowledge that we had no CD equipment cost paper and the funds remain the same as citizens bank.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Trainer, no CD, for the month of, November. All those in favor say aye. October, excuse me.
That's all I have.
Thank you. County Business, Administration, Ms. Scary. We accept the payroll changes.
Good payroll changes. The district attorney's notice of supplemental pay, I put a copy of the letter in your packets. We have to do an order acknowledging that he's using supplemental money to pay Maurice Johnson.
Motion for acknowledgement
By
on that.
Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Miller. Any more discussion on the matter? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Over the board over.
During our work session, we discussed, the election resolution for the, board, the, election resolution board to get, a certain amount of pay, additional pay, and it was approved verbally. I need an order to back that up.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Trainer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Pritchard did bring in the NL Carson A request for Sun Creek Road. I would like to wait till the next meeting to present this, because all it's gonna, he's requesting $167,000 be paid, it's gonna leave a retainage of $10,000, and until, I'll just rather wait till the other contractor finishes it.
Okay. Table that matter.
Credit card charges in the amount of $20, I need an order to pay them.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by
Pay
Supervisor Trainer. Pay $20. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
We have, let's get over here, bus turnaround came in for Roosevelt Park at 432 First Road. I need an order to allow that.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams to
What
do
road
a,
is that now?
First,
Okay,
to do a bus turnaround at 432 First Road. Any more discussion on that matter? If not, all those in favor say aye. All right, is that it?
no, letter of engagement for the 2019 audit from Martin Moore and Stafford. I need an order for the board president to sign it.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Miller. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
Renewal of health insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Need an order for the board president to sign it.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by
I thought the other one was better, but we just didn't have the backup documentation.
Supervisor Miller.
We'll look at it next time.
All those in favor say aye.
Nay.
Okay, 3-1. All right.
Was that health insurance 3-to-1 or?
Yes, ma'am.
It was one briefly?
Train.
That's a lot, I don't know that. I don't mind staying on the island by myself sometimes.
Payment of claims docket, claim number 232 through
Oh, you know what?
651.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Trainer.
Give up. Shouldn't give up.
All those in
Oh,
favor,
yeah.
say aye. Aye. And opposed or
I mean,
abstained?
abstain,
3-0.
abstain.
3-0.
And then, of course, I had given y'all the, changes to those contracts that we discussed in the work session. We can either go with them or we can bring it up next time if there's.
I think let's move forward and get them published. Can you get them published on our website?
Yeah, as soon as we, approve
Get them approved? I mean, I would like to get them published, and that way I can put the link out there for people to read it.
Well,
And we should have told the road manager about letting them know about the heavy haul too.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta approve it, then I'll let them know.
Okay, alright.
So we, before we, I know y'all move forward with it, but how is the person across the ditch? If they can't put logs, normally they will put logs in the ditch to travel, to go across from the land where they're cutting it back onto the road itself. Now, we said they can't put logs in the ditch, and that's on section, C.
I have seen where when they're doing that they will put in a temporary culvert.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that has to be addressed then as to who's gonna pay for the temporary
They
coverage.
put the culvert in.
Right, but that's not in here though, they say they just can't put log, and I tell you, that's the way they're doing it now. Now they're putting logs in the ditch to be able to go across the ditch.
Well, I'd like to see us prevent that. I know when Vic was here, he was making, and I saw a guy had a logger thing on the side of his truck, he was at the Waffle House, and he had a long steel culvert. In other words, they put that steel culvert in,
Right.
they cover it up with existing dirt, et cetera. They get through, they dig that out, and they pull that out.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I think you're right on.
Yeah, that's right.
That needs to be
It
added
needs to be
to.
addressed, that this is what we expect.
What page is that on? That's like the third page.
That's on C on the, second
Here's
page.
the second page, okay.
Required to put temporary culvert.
Yes,
Require the contractor,
at their expense.
Contractor put temporary, install temporary culvert.
but it won't cost them anything, because if they've got a steel culvert, be it an old gas pipe line or something.
Are we gonna provide the gravel and the, clay soil, are they to provide everything associated with, installing that cut?
Oh, it's right there,
Then,
supposed to.
they'll have, they've got large equipment on site, and they've got to prepare, they usually bring in a bulldozer anyway, and prepare if they're doing trees, they have to prepare the land, the landing, zones and all that thing, so.
Should be addressed then to that effect, so they'll know exactly what we expect of them.
Sure.
Put
Yeah,
that under C
situation.
on page 2.
good eye on that too. But other than that, and I like too, Supervisor Miller was, talking about, and it's right under there, the permit shall submit application, the permittee shall submit an application a minimum of 72 hours prior to hauling activities, which gives us gives our guys, we know where something's happening, it gives us a moment to, get that route out, down and check with the supervisor to make sure that's, the way they should be going out.
Well, in the way that's gonna do the least damage to the roads
Affect the
in the
road
county.
system,
I
right.
mean, we want them to get their logs out, but to do the least damage, Triple Creek Road is terrible.
Okay, and then Mr. Williams had emailed me to change something to say county engineer or road manager,
Right.
and where was
That's
that
right.
at?
That's right. That was that was, to give instructions. And I don't know, is this the same one, that you sent us?
Yes.
And I know on the very back, while you're looking for that, it says any person who violates provisions, basically the first is, $500. The second, is $1,000. And it says any subsequent violations, basically, let's see, I would like something in there. I think Supervisor Howard and myself had mentioned, that we can tell them that they can't, they can't haul down our roads. It gives us the authority to do that. I don't know if I would see that in here at this moment.
Well, I think we got to where we didn't include that the last time for some reason.
Say that again, I'm sorry, I missed.
Well, they were gonna, if the truck driver himself got caught on the road, he was gonna be charged $500 the first time, $1,000 the second time, and then,
After that, we have the right to.
he'd not be allowed to haul.
We can deem them unable to haul down our roads. I don't see it in there.
It's not in there.
It's not in there.
Can we put it in there?
I would like that we hold the right to deny access onto our public roads. Beyond that,
Okay.
I mean, I would say
Deny.
for any subsequent violations, you can put in there that we as the Board of Supervisors has the right to deny access to these public roads, bridges.
All right. I got it.
Beyond that, I think we've put together a very good, policy, and I think you're doing that, Rob.
No. This one over here?
No, this was Clyde.
Okay. Looks like this is.
I just.
Well, it was really a team effort, I mean, everybody got input.
Gave him samples.
It was something that
This
gives
board came up with
a little more traction, for the county to be able to protect our greatest assets, which is our county road system and bridge system this morning. But, with that being said, if there's any more discussion, if not, I need a motion and a second to approve this, Debbie Hall.
with amendments.
With amendment.
And I had to get back with you, the gist of my recommendation was that the county engineer might not be available to communicate with everyone that's gonna be doing heavy hauling, especially with hauling timber. The county engineer, I don't believe, wanna get involved with timber hauling, so that would really go directly through the road manager. So it was a section on there, and I have to get back with you on that, but it was a section on there that they would communicate with the county engineer, prior to, getting a permission.
County engineer or the road manager?
But
Well,
it was
we're
the
gonna
county
change it
engineer.
to have, county engineer /
And,
road manager.
Yeah, that's what I recommended, that it would be changed to county engineer and, road manager.
That's what I did down at the bottom here where it said county administrator, I
Right.
put add or road manager.
Right,
It
right.
originally said county administrator.
Right,
Not everybody's always available when something needs to be done.
that's right.
But I got that note.
Well, now I do know this is, next to last page, that it says we could require a surety bond when deemed necessary, but then at the top of that page, it says they shall furnish a bond.
I know, I thought all that, but
Yeah, you had made a recommendation, say, may.
May need a bond. In other words, under extreme just the man who's trying to get 100 loads of,
I get this struck to me in the top of the one.
well, I don't think we require bonds all the time, and we don't
Right.
necessarily require them when it's, when it's, timber hauler, but we do if it's a contractor, so I reckon I saw it, but I left them both in there like that.
So what about permittee may be required to
May be
furnish?
required, yeah.
So it would, you know, let them know that.
There's more than one type of bond,
Right.
and so that's kind of when I get confused, as if he was talking about the same type of bond I'm talking about, that you were talking about that we added.
I was saying a surety bond, in other words, if they
Okay.
tear up roads, then that bond
And this
would.
might be performance or what other type we got,
Well, the surety bond is what I thought would,
cover damage.
yeah, I mean, if you, for instance, on Supervisor Williams' district, I mean, when they built that road, they brought 400,000 yards of dirt across that half-mile section, maybe 3/4 of a mile. I mean, and that was something that we could deem necessary to have them hold bond,
Right.
which we did. And, but you wouldn't require it on someone who's getting 50 loads out, you know what I mean, and they're going straight to a state aid road, what have you. So it would be something that would make it more flexible.
Okay, it's permittee shall furnish a performance bond or cash bond in the amount of 100% of the estimated cost of repairs as stated in the, like, that's twice, that's a performance bond or a cash bond.
Okay.
Okay, and then, and I think, I'm seeing that as you would base it on the amount of what they're gonna be hauling out, how long it's gonna take, and what the possible damages could be, and go from there.
Yeah, I was more interested in the damages to the road system.
Yeah.
If it were a lot of yards coming in
Yeah,
and
and I
out.
think that's where that performance bond comes in.
Okay.
But that still would be most heavy haulers. Still would be most heavy haulers. Very few individuals would not be required to do a performance bond.
Yeah, cause I mean, they're gonna have to have one to operate that business most of the time. Especially if you're in business for it, you know what I mean?
But we could legally make a judgment on that then, couldn't we?
With the may in there, y'all can always come back and plug in something based on the circumstances that you're dealing with, so I think you're right.
Okay, but then where the alternative for the performance bond does not say may, it says shall.
Well, performance bond is, I'm like you, there's several different ones out here. Performance bond is one thing, and you may wanna put on even on the performance bond, it may be a small enough project that doesn't require one, but in general terms, a may for the damage on the road is kinda where I'm at with what we were talking about. Now, we may wanna do it from both sides. What do you think?
I have no idea, I'm lost at this point.
I think a may on both of those probably would give us enough leeway to do whatever y'all wanna do. Some of these projects aren't large enough to require anything.
Instead of permittee shall furnish, it's the permittee may be required to furnish a performance bond or cash bond. And then down at the surety bond also, it was, which may require a surety bond.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that way, you can cover that
Where's
on,
that other one, just surety bond there, okay.
On-
Such roads which shall require surety bond when deemed necessary. Yeah, I think that's okay.
That's good, I like that,
Yeah.
deemed necessary.
Yeah, it says shall when deemed necessary, instead of may.
Shall becomes a may.
Well, can we just say it when deemed necessary up here to the permittee?
Yeah,
sure.
Whatever works for y'all is best, that's fine.
that's good.
Yeah.
anything else from anyone else? Any more discussion? Not,
Oh, yes, good too.
okay.
We gotta
Agreed.
do a motion and a second.
We haven't done this yet.
So we're gonna, motion by Supervisor Trainer, we're adopting the hall.
Oh, yeah, that.
So motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams, with the amendments. We got a motion and a second, any more discussion? If not, all those in favor of the heavy haul, motion carries 4-0. Big step right
You
there.
wanna do the dog ordinance or wait on it?
You wanna discuss the creek or the dog
It
ordinance?
doesn't matter, I just don't wanna leave without us doing the creek thing, we figured it out now, so I did with it.
Let's, while we're on ordinances, we'll stick with the vicious dog ordinance. I've looked at this, I mean, it,
I haven't looked at the newest one because it was on the table, but, I mean, I thought the first one was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the first one was good.
I'm good with it. I mean, I've not seen this together, but I've seen what we had,
Right.
what we
You
were
wanna wait
gonna
till
add.
next time on that?
No, I mean, I'm good with it.
No, I think we should move forward.
So I'm good with the new vicious dog ordinance, if you will.
Okay.
Well, with a few changes here,
Okay.
with a few recommendations.
Okay.
What's
We
the
wanna cover that ground today?
Come on.
Yes, I just made,
Yeah, where we're at.
made notes on a few things here. Two, what kind of bothers me is who has the right of travel, or the right of being there when a person is on the sidewalk? When a person is walking down the sidewalk, and I know this says if the dog is provoked. But if somebody's walking down the sidewalk and a dog comes after them, they're gonna have just natural reflex to do something to kind of, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. Now, that could be perceived as provoking the dog to attack. But the person is on county or city right away, so they should be protected regardless to whether or not it's perceived as being provoked or not. So I guess what I'm saying, as long as the person is on county or city right away and not on private property, that dog should be deemed as vicious if the dog attacks them.
If they're on public right of way and a dog comes up and is barking and everything, that's him, I agree with you, and I think that is without provocation.
Yes, that's right.
If they get bit.
That's right. And I didn't see that in here anywhere, it just kept talking about being, if the animal is being provoked.
I think
But there are
that,
circumstances, I guess, as such.
I think that's under D on the first page.
Yeah. Handled it indeed without provocation.
Yes, it without,
Provocation,
right. But, okay,
yeah.
but it's quite different, however, and when I say, how do you perceive being provoked? In some situations, the dog really not being provoked, the person just acting out of normal reflex. And say, get back, get back, get back. And then the dog thinks because he raised his foot, thinking that he's being provoked.
If the dog comes up and it's barking and growling and acting like it's gonna hurt you, then
It's already, I think at that point you can defend yourself. He's showing himself to be a vicious dog when he's coming up, teeth growling, snarling, loud barking, etc.
I just don't want, a dog to be given more rights than a human being, and someone that should be addressed, should be a statement to that effect in here, that, a dog should not be given more, rights than a person should be given.
I just don't know how to add that.
I don't know how to add neither, but I think it should be addressed though in some kind of way.
I think this is it's understood in my thinking, because this is a vicious animal ordinance.
Well, here's the thing, I think
Not a
that
vicious
handles,
person.
I think that handles it in E. It says the word menacing fashion, means it's a dog would cause a reasonable person being chased or approached. So if I'm standing in a sidewalk and the dog is approaching me in a menacing fashion, and I believe this dog would cause physical injury to myself, then I can defend myself. I don't think they would see that as provoking the dog. The dog came up to me, it approached me in a menacing fashion, so hence I defended myself when I said, get back, whatever. Kick, you know, I mean, you have to kick them or run from them or what have you. That would, I think the dog coming up would make the person assume they're a vicious dog that you didn't provoke, that's come up in a menacing fashion, has approached me, so then I can defend myself. I think it's just the whole gamut of the C, D, and E. I think
Take
that's
the document as a whole, and
Yeah.
the document as a whole, basically, it states and covers what Supervisor Williams' concern is, because the whole point of this is to guard against vicious dogs. So I think you're on the right track in the thought process, but I think you have to take the document as a whole, and it's stating that it's for the benefit of human beings. It's for the benefit of protecting human beings and their property, whether it be your dog or your
Another animal,
person,
yeah.
right?
All in all, this is saying that the people are non-threatening and the dog is vicious. That's what we're.
I do believe this helps. It's a better updated vicious dog ordinance than, I think the one, the original one was a great step. This is, it takes it a little further, a little more detailed.
Well, does this need to be titled as an amended dog ordinance?
Well, are we taking it as an attachment to the current one, or are we taking it as a brand new one? Because I kind of was under the impression we were taking it as a brand new one when we originally started.
Okay.
Alright, so if it's a brand new one, it's not amended,
Okay.
it's,
This is the current ordinance.
this will be the current one. Now, my understanding of, I'll be very honest, when we first started down this road, I wasn't crazy about tinkering with our vicious dog ordinance, because first of all, there's some expense involved in it, and from my standpoint, if I can keep us from spending money, I would prefer to do that. But secondarily, I thought that the first one we had was fine. Now, the problem we ran into was there was some distinctions as to who was responsible, whether that be the county or whether that be the Humane Society. And this clearly sets out who's responsible for what, and from that perspective,
Yeah.
that makes this a little bit better.
I think it's a little more flexible.
And there is more flexibility here. It gives the sheriff department a little bit more thought process with this and everything. But what this basically does is restate what state law is already. So I don't want y'all to, it's not like we're changing the world too much anyway. But
This is Octavia Hall County's ordinance.
correct. And I think we were gonna have to deal with it simply, we were having some issues that were popping up that needed to give the sheriff department a little bit more input from us.
I agree.
So, that being said, are we ready to adopt this ordinance? Got a motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Miller. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Anything else? Supervisor Miller had mentioned, the bridge,
The creek,
the creek,
Heritage Bridge.
excuse me.
Okay, so, after looking at, this was Skinner Creek, you know, the city had said, well, even though it's the county's responsibility to maintain the creek, and we had done that thing, they said, we will clean it out between the country club and under Poorhouse Road, using their manpower, and then there was some not knowing about the cost, even though they were gonna do it. So, 10,000, is that right, Rob?
That's right.
So, they will put the remaining funds in if we will pay 10,000 to help cover costs. They will cover the remaining costs, which was a higher percentage, to clean that section of creek out. And I asked Miss Emily, and it can be used out of one of your money, and I'd like to do that, to keep those homes from flooding, if the board will approve it.
Can you, I have no problem with that, is that something she can do?
I don't see why she can't. I mean, I can check with the audit, but I don't think there's a reason why she can't do it.
I asked Bob to look into it.
Second motion.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right.
I'll get the right-of-way agreements and stuff, and if you'll get with the city before tomorrow.
I'll call them.
Interlocal finalized.
Do we have to on that, or is there
I
not
think you don't
standing?
have to.
I think we're gonna have to,
Everyone
since we're giving them.
Yeah.
If that be the case, then we need to do a motion and a second for an interlocal on this.
Yes,
I mean,
We've already got that.
I thought we'd already done that
We
last
got
time.
that.
we did do the interlocal, we didn't realize there was any money involved when we first did it. I think we've got the interlocal.
Yeah.
Let's
Allow
say
them to use their,
this amends the interlocal that we agreed to.
yeah, is that okay? Do we need to do anything else?
I think we're good.
Okay.
With the understanding this amends the interlocal that we had agreed to.
This is interlocal terms.
I'll make a motion on that with the agreement.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Trainer. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion carries. Do we want to take up any other of the discussions that we had in our work session pertaining to the tax assessor's office?
Well, we already did that, where Ron goes, Rob's got to organize that, and Rob's still got some trash collecting policy.
Our garbage bill, our trash collecting policy is, frankly, it's ready. Short of making certain that I have one other eye look at it to make certain I ain't mess up on it. So it's ready. We could probably do it. I'd really like to go ahead and get this done, if we could go ahead and approve, cause y'all all looked at it,
Sure.
I'd like to go ahead and get it done and in that motion, just say as amended, because we did amend some things in our work session. Let's approve it, let me go ahead and get it over there to them.
Motion for approval as amended.
Motion, for approval, Supervisor Williams on, our collections on past due garbage payments and the policy that we're gonna adhere to. So got a motion by Supervisor Williams. And a second by Supervisor Trainer. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
I think that'd be sense,
I tell you, we got a lot done in that work session.
We got a lot done in the work
We
session.
really did.
Y'all got a lot done in the last 2 or 3 sessions,
We really
all
have.
this.
So, curfew, this could get somewhat sticky. Well.
Make a motion, we extend the curfew and the mask.
Second.
So we got a motion, let's do the curfew separate, if we
We
can.
got a motion on the table now.
If you want to do them together.
Yeah, but we don't have to too, if you do motion and mass together.
Well, if we do two, I mean, it goes on.
Yeah, it goes on because the order is still active.
It goes off.
It goes off.
Goes off, you don't have any.
So this is y'all normal truth.
No, it's not. We can go back and make a motion just for
Yes, it is.
curfew. We can go back and make a motion just for curfew.
We can't go, okay,
Well, he wants to
Take
keep the
that
motion,
motion
so
on the table.
we'll keep the motion. Got a motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by, Supervisor Williams to do the curfew and the mask in one order. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. So 2-2. Do you mind if I will make the motion to extend the curfew till our next board meeting. I'll make that motion from
I'll second that.
12 to 4. A motion by myself, second by Supervisor Miller to do the curfew. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None opposed.
I'll make the motion, we extend the mask.
second.
Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Williams. All those for say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed on the mask? 2-2. So
Let's
that
stay
would,
like it is.
It's over.
It's
it
over.
comes off.
is over.
That's a
So
big
we got a
mistake.
curfew, but we don't have a mask.
That is a big mistake.
You all are leaders of the county.
Yes, we have.
That is a big mistake.
All right.
So
So,
made a mask political.
Well,
hey, wait, we got county business, supervisor business now.
okay.
So Supervisor Miller?
I was just gonna say, we have a big event this weekend in Forest Park, another one, equestrian event, barrel race, so lots of tourism coming into the community for that.
All right. Supervisor Williams?
But you all said that people that occupy County don't have to wear masks.
Based upon his order just passed today.
I don't know what it's saying.
Can
People
we
still
still
die.
require them to wear it when they come into our buildings?
Not according to the order that's passed unless you.
Unless the city.
something different. Well, unless the city has something different.
I don't think you realize what you're doing.
Did Mr. Pritchard say that, a man that was with, the construction company just had COVID?
He has it now, the one.
Wasn't he at our meeting
Just
last
now.
week?
More so, y'all go ahead.
That was
Yeah,
what, that
got
was.
people
true.
dying.
But still, he was at our meeting the last time.
Mm.
And he just came off of the quarantine, but he was at our meeting.
Really?
Yes, he was, he was
First,
at
I
our
never
meeting.
heard of that now.
Mr. Pritchard just said he did. He was at our, the guy that gave the report from Phillips just came off of quarantine.
Y'all making a big mistake, big mistake.
Yeah, they've got a new case down in, Uprising.
And then we got people with law enforcement people who still, from what I
And the
understand.
person in Appraisal, it might be married to someone in law enforcement.
He is married to law enforcement.
Well,
So be it.
I'm gonna keep wearing, there you go.
I think that's what should be, if we're not gonna have the mask mandate, it should be encouraged for those that don't feel comfortable walking around I would encourage people to continue wearing their masks. I have had COVID, my brother currently has COVID, and I realize that I'm just your attorney on this thing, but I do want to say for the camera out there that this is real. If you feel uncomfortable, and if you have people that are older, wear your mask. Do the right thing and wear your mask, regardless of whether it's a government mandate or not a government mandate. Do the right thing, protect the people that you love. I'm certainly gonna wear my mask, whenever I'm especially when I'm walking in near larger groups of people and things like that. There's no change in that. So regardless of whether that there's a mandate or not, wear your mask.
We still got, limitation on how many people can be in a room.
50 now.
What is that, according to the state mandate?
It depends on what you're having to, like I know,
How big the room is.
like, Gulf Park, it's a third it'll hold or whatever, it'll hold several thousand, so it depends on what you're doing and what the building is.
My concern is,
That's a lot of
these court trials, if they open up, and it's, people want to come and listen to.
Supervisor Trainer, you have anything?
No, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
I've got two things, that I would like to bring. 5191 Self Creek Road, I've got a tree leaning across the road that I would like to, a board order, that's gonna be my motion. That we either us push the tree down or hire someone to, get that tree down. Made the road department aware, they may need to subcontract this out. So motion by myself, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any more discussion? Not all those in favor? And then also with Whispering Pine subdivision, I've got a cross drain that's out. Well, we replaced the cross drain, and I would like to see that hot mix machine, come across and pave over the top of that, cross drain in the road. So that's my motion. Second by Supervisor Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. That's all I have from the chair.
Motion that we stand recess to the 16th. We got anything we need to do, before the end, anything in the daytime?
So we got it makes, we can do it. We got a bid opening that morning, I believe.
On the 16th?
We'll do it at 9.
Yeah, that'd be great, man.
All right, so motion by Supervisor Trainer to stand adjourned until the 16th at 9 a.m. Need a second? Second by Supervisor Miller. All those in favor say aye. All right, guys.
Everybody have a great day.